Create custom ADDS partitions. Custom applications might need to store their data in the ADDS database. Some of them rely on Schema extensions for this purpose. However, there are also others which require creating custom ADDS partitions. This happens to be the case with the new Contoso's in-house developed suite of applications that you need to help deploy. What are ADDS partitions? A partition or naming context is a portion of the ADDS database. Although the database is one file named ntds.di, different partitions contain different data. Each partition is a unit of replication, and each partition has its own replication topology. The default partitions include configuration partition. The configuration partition is created automatically when you create the first domain controller in a forest. The configuration partition contains information about the forest-wide ADDS structure, including which domains and sites exist and which domain controllers exist in each domain. This partition replicates to all domain controllers in the forest. Schema partition. The schema partition contains definitions of all the objects and attributes that you can create in the data store and the rules for creating and manipulating them. Schema information replicates to all domain controllers in the forest. Domain partition. When you create a new domain, ADDS automatically creates an instance of the domain partition. That partition is subsequently automatically replicated to every new domain controller in the same domain. The domain partition contains information about all domain-specific objects, including users, groups, computers, organizational units, OUs, and domain-related system settings. Application partition. The application partition stores non-domain, application-related information that tends to be updated at a higher frequency or have a customizable lifetime, such as a domain name system DNS partition when Active Directory Integrated DNS is enabled. You typically have the flexibility to designate the scope of replication of application partitions by designating which domain controllers in a forest will host its copies. Note, by default, when you configure a domain controller to host Active Directory Integrated DNS zones, two separate application partitions, domain DNS zones and forest DNS zones, are created. The domain DNS zones partition contains domain-specific DNS records, and its replication scope consists of other ADDS domain controllers that host the DNS server role. Create ADDS partitions. You can create and manage ADDS partitions by using the ndsutil.exe command line tool. ndsutil.exe also allows you to perform several other ADDS-related management tasks, such as NTDS database maintenance, including creating snapshots, relocating database files, and offline defragmentation, cleaning up domain controller metadata following its unrecoverable failure, resetting the password used to sign in to the Directory Services Restore Mode, DSRM. Demonstration. The following video demonstrates how to create a custom ADDS partition. The main steps in the process are: 1. Create ADDS environment. Create a single domain ADDS forest containing two domain controllers. 2. Create a custom ADDS partition. Use command line tools to create a custom application partition. 3. Verify that a custom ADDS partition exists. Use command line tools to verify existence of a custom application partition. 4. Delete a custom ADDS partition. Use command line tools to delete a custom application partition.
You're going to see how to create and delete a custom Active Directory partition using the ntdsutil command line utility. So here we are in an elevated PowerShell prompt. We run ntdsutil. We activate the instance ntds. It says it's not a domain controller. We select partition management, and then we configure connections. We connect to a domain controller, in this case seadc1.contoso.com. We're now connected to that domain controller. We're back to partition management. We select list. This lists the current partitions on this domain controller: configuration, Contoso, schema, domain DNS zones, forest DNS zones. So then we use the command create, new partition, app partition, and we specify the common name of it, DC app partition, DC Contoso, DC com, on the domain controller, seadc1.contoso.com. It adds that object. We do a list of all of the partitions, and we see that we have the new partition at the bottom, number 5, DC app partition, DC Contoso, DC com. Now, if we want to delete it, we type delete, naming context, DC is app partition, DC is contoso, DC equals com. This is a relative distinguished name, which you've got to use when you're performing these tasks. We list, and we see in the list of partitions now that that newly added partition has since been removed. We then exit NTDS util.
Summary. Using the knowledge acquired in this module, you created trust relationships between the Contoso's ADDS existing forests, implemented the eSay forest, and created a custom ADDS partition to facilitate deployment of a new in-house developed suite of applications. Throughout these changes, you ensured that the ADDS replication remained fully operational